mentioned all those different contractors and industry and people and experts and things that start to get around these projects. Who would generally be the first port of call? Like, so, as a body corporate, they've figured out they've got some defect issues. They know that there's an issue. Who's the first usually, or who are the first people that they'd get around the table?
So from me, I get the owner representative in there straight away. And then
so that's a member of the committee, someone on the committee.
No, an owner representative, independent.
Sorry, like the guy you were just talking about.
Owner rep.
Right. Yeah.
Get him in place, and then get a building survey company in place to do the building survey for you, and then it sort of flows from there. So the owner representative will be able to put a budget together to start things off, so that you can quantify exactly where you are, what you're going to need, how big this is. He can also help a lot with, is there anybody culpable, who can we have a go at, can we have a crack at council even though we're out of time, things like that. And that's where I go back to notifying your defects to as many people that could be culpable early in the piece, to make sure that you're in there before the end of the 6-year jeopardy period, or the 12-month guarantee right at the start, or your 10-year long stop. So you've got to notify as early as possible. Yeah.
And then at what point do they actually press go on it? Like, do these big sort of like construction companies and that, do they have to be paid a certain amount up front, or how's the money gathered in? Like all these little things that I guess we don't either think about or know. When does the money start flowing in from the owners to the contractors?
So if I can, I'll probably use one that I've got. The one I've talked about, it's starting on the 1st of February. That's when we're looking at construction. So we've got a Section 74 going into place. We're right at the end of our final design, our architectural design. Our quantity surveyor has nailed the cost down and said, yep, we're certain that that's where we're going to be. Our contingency's a little less than it was, but it's still decent. We've got our project manager in place, so we will have an EGM as soon as we've got the Section 74 in place to resolve the raising of the levies. And the owners are always told, especially when I'm looking after anybody, they must pay everything at the start. So they're saying, can we just pay it in sections? Can we, just maybe a bit now and a bit in 6 months, or a bit more in a year? No, we need all the money in place right at the start. And so we generally would make the levies due about 2 months prior to the start of construction, and that way we can identify if we've got issues with people not paying, which could affect the start time of the project.
Shit, so everyone's got to come up with that money right before the...
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise it falls over real fast, because people can't afford it, and then the whole thing grinds to a halt. Wendy, what would be worthwhile is the parameters, like a brief explanation of the parameters of what a Section 74 is and how that empowers banks and people to be able to get finance.
Yeah, so there's a few bits and pieces with the funding. Number one is escrow accounts. So often a bank will lend money, but they won't want it held by anybody else. They'll want it held by a lawyer who is their escrow agent, who holds that money and then feeds it out to us as and when we need it. Sorry, Roger, you said the parameters on...
Like Section 74, what that establishes.
Yeah. So a Section 74 is a High Court order, and it binds all owners to the project and any future owners. So if a unit changes hands part way through, the Section 74 is binding on future owners as well as current owners. It also delineates who pays for what. So a lot of the time the funds are raised via utility interest, so the way we would raise normal levies according to their ownership interest in the building. But sometimes there are private areas that will be charged separately. So a Section 74 will determine how each unit pays and how much it pays. It will determine if there's any monies left over at the end of the project, how they are dispersed, and it binds owners to the project. It also gives the body corporate a lot more power when it comes to debt collection. So it's a really worthwhile tool for a big project, and it just binds people.